Hey, what's going on, everyone? Joe Menza here, and we're going to do another watercolor painting. Colorful little scene from more or less my imagination. Kind of in the style of the TV painters that you see. You see Bill Alexander and Bob Ross, but this is going to be more in the watercolor style. So I've taken some little alizarin crimson, a little bit of yellow ochre, some cad yellow here. I'm just throwing in some colors. I don't even really know what I want to do. I'm just grabbing some colors that look like maybe they'd make a nice sky. A little bit of a system here. Everybody kind of likes to follow the TV painter guys and, have sort of a system that they can follow. Now, my approach is to throw in this backdrop. This is kind of like what I call setting the stage. So we're going to put in a background element, and then we'll go from there and just kind of let it play out and come up with a, something that would fit, right? That's the idea, is throw some colors on the paper, throw some paint on the paper. Here I'm coming in with a little bit of cerulean blue and just throwing a little bit of blue in the sky and keeping a little bit of light in the middle. So the idea is to just set up your stage. And then once you have something, what other pieces of furniture are you going to throw in there? We're looking at doing some mountains, some foliage. I'm throwing in a little bit of yellow into the sky. I'll come back later and I'll put some white in there, and hopefully we'll see some illumination on the clouds. I like to use white. Unabashed user of white, rule breaker. The idea is to have fun with the painting and not worry about the rules, and maybe you turn something out good in the end. So again, I'm just darkening up this sky. I want that light to really be bright in the middle. And you use whatever colors you want to use here. Just kind of use this and say, hey, I'm going to dip into this, something that might be a sky color, a little bit of purple. It may not be the most realistic sky that you've seen, but in the end, if you like the colors, if you like the color scheme, at the end of the day, that's what's important. Maybe you have something, unique, a unique piece that you like. You can hang up in your house and tell people, say, hey, I painted that. So I like to use the spray brush. I like to use a little paper towel to kind of blot out sometimes the clouds. And if that just doesn't do it for me, I'll come back with a little bit of white. You can use white gouache, you can use titanium white, you can use Chinese white. Doesn't really matter. Just remember you might have to layer it a little bit. White does dry back. Sometimes it sinks into the paper a little bit. You can be as subtle or you can be as intense as you want. The heavier you put it on, the less it's going to sink in and the more it's going to stand out. So just have fun with it. Consider it an experiment as you move on to your next piece. And I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of a mountain here. Coming in with some ultramarine blue and some Payne's gray. It works better as a darker piece if you're going to go over it with scratching it out with the plastic card, or you're going to maybe put a little white over the top. It's kind of like Bob Ross. He would use the palette knife or, put on this heavy mountain base. And then you can take the plastic card and scrape downward following the the slope of the mountain. And if that doesn't work for you, if I look at it and I say, it just doesn't really catch what I was trying to get there, then I'll throw a little white on there. We'll put a little snow on the peaks. So a lot of different ways that you can go about it. You can also lift with the brush, and you can lift out. I'll do that in another video. I'll show lifting out of the peaks. Come in with a wet brush and just lift it out. And sometimes that looks actually, it's more subtle, it looks more realistic. Sometimes I look at it, I'm not real happy with the shape, although mountains can come in any shape, right? I'm just giving it a little spray. I'm going to have a little something over here, probably a couple pine trees we'll put in. More or less the fun of it, you know, the fun of it is the scraping and, you know, the ease of doing it. I'm definitely not a, you know, several hour, several weeks painting kind of person. I don't really have the patience for that. And I'm guessing you found this video, if you're new here, because let's just put it this way. When I started, I was given a Bob Ross kit for Christmas, and I did 2 or 3 paintings, but I don't have like this dedicated space in my house to do oils and work with thinner. So from there, I went on and I did pastels, and I did a bunch of other things, and then I decided, you know, I'm going to try watercolor. I went and I bought like this cheap plastic, looked like something kids would use. And I thought, you know, watercolors is like, I had a vision in my mind that it was something kids used, like little kids in school. And so I played around with it, and I thought, this would be something I could sit in my living room. I could fool around with a couple little brushes. And I actually had fun doing it. And I thought to myself, there has to be people online doing something like this. And, you know, there are so many talented people out there that have to be doing something amazing with this. So I went on YouTube and I started looking up artists, and I started looking up like Bob Ross style watercolor, beginner watercolor. And the first person I came across was Frank Clark. Frank Clark is really, really good for you know, beginner starter people, and his shows are really good and fun, and he goes to different places. And I thought, okay, this is what I'm looking for, and I ordered his brushes. It took like 3 weeks to come from Ireland, and I finally got it. And my first one I did like a single color burnt sienna type painting, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, I immediately I saw results, and I'm like, this is it. This is the way to do it with the brush. So now I'm just kind of swiping in some blue here, trying to, some green. This is just, you know, kind of getting an idea for some grassy areas. This is just random, trying to leave a little bit of white behind. So after I did that, then I started looking around. I'm like, there's got to be, this was like 4 years ago. And I said, there's got to be someone out there that is doing, though. I mean, Frank Clark's good, but it's not really what I'm looking for. So I kept searching, and of course then I found Stephen Cronin, who's been doing it for years and years. He's fantastic, and I like to call ourselves friends. We've had many conversations since then. He's got a Patreon. I mean, he does a lot of stuff. Definitely worth you know, watching and contributing to. He's a great artist in his own right with watercolor. Uses the same tools, same products for years and years, and he's become, you know, a master in his own right for what he does. He has an eBay shop, all that good stuff. So then I thought to myself, well, there's got to be other people out there, and there's got to be, I mean, Stephen has come up with a lot of his own techniques, sure. But reading through the comments, I started hearing about Ron Ranson. Ron Ranson has passed away a few years ago. And I'm like, aha, this guy is the guru. This is the man. And so that's when I started looking into Ron Ranson. There wasn't a lot of material. But then what I did was I looked up and I found books and I found videos, and I started getting into that. As you can see now, I'm adding a little bit of white, and I'm making these mountains just to look a little bit better. I'm using my fan brush. You can see how they got a little bit better of a shape now. And I kind of wished I had left it like this, but I have a tendency to overdo it and ruin things. Now watching this back, I can see it looked pretty good right here, but one of those times you can't really leave well enough alone. Not that when it came out bad, but you wish you could kind of have an out-of-body experience and tell yourself, stop right there. But Anyways, after I started looking into Ron Ranson, I'm like, wow, this guy's really great. I mean, he's the pioneer of the fast and loose method in the hake brush. And I learned quite a bit. And then I believe it was Matthew over in our group now. He hit me up and he said, we started talking about, I think we met each other in another group. And he said, oh, he's a big Ron Ranson fan. And, he started giving me tips and back and forth. And I said, it's a shame. I mean, nobody's really done anything dedicated to him. And then, we had a lot of conversation. We were talking on the phone and whatnot. And so a little while later, he came back. And I wasn't really that well versed really in Facebook. Honestly, I didn't really use it that much. But he came back and he goes, oh, I started a Facebook group. And he sent me an invite. And it was based on Ron Ranson. He called it Ron Ranson Disciples. And him and I and a couple other people, we were like the very first members. And it was pretty much dedicated to just, the teachings of Ron Ranson. You can see here I'm putting in a little more shadowing in here, which is good. That would have been a fine addition. You notice I have a little bit of a tendency to make what I call like the sort of bunch of bananas, the way the peaks are. And I want to kind of get away from doing that and kind of make different slopes. You'll see at the end when I make the mountain, the middle mountain sort of come down. And now I'm making just this peak a little bit higher. This is where I'm starting to fuss a little bit in here because I'm happy with like the sky and the light. And so now I'm giving it sort of like the fussy treatment. It's something you kind of want to avoid. That was Ron Ranson's thing. Painting without the fuss, minimal amount of brush strokes. So anyways, I've added a little viridian here. I've let that run down. That's going to be some water there. I like the look of that. I like to put white and then like spray it and let it run into the rest of the colors. It's kind of a neat effect. So here I go, sort of overdoing it a little bit. But anyways, then we started putting that out there and we started getting new members. And before you know it, we had 50 and then we had 100 and we had Lois Davidson join, who's a really good artist. She just hit 10,000 subscribers on hers. And of course we had Dave Usher and we recruited a lot of people. We have a lot of people that are really good art. If I see somebody that paints in that style, I'll oftentimes say, hey, why don't you come join our group, or new people that want to be in a community and learn together. Come on over and share your work and share your tools, and we'll all share ideas. And we've got about 800 members now. So it's been a pretty good ride these last few years, and I never thought I would get to the point that I'm at now. Not that I'm a master or anything, There's so many good people out there. It's intimidating. When I see really good watercolor work, I'm like, I don't know. Does it have a tendency to discourage you when you see something so good that you're like, man, I'll never achieve that? Well, my thing is I started this late in life, so my goal here is to get people to join the journey. I found that that's my niche, however you want to pronounce it. By the way, on the left here, I'm doing some pine trees with some cobalt blue, kind of a greenish tint, so it kind of matches a little bit with that water. Using the fan brush, just kind of hitting those branches. But anyway, I feel like I got such enjoyment from the watercolor painting, and I felt I progressed in a way that I enjoyed. And I thought, and it helps with anxiety and calming and all that kind of good stuff. And I got so much into it that I thought, there's got to be a lot of people like me out there that they haven't really discovered like this kind of enjoyment, but they have the creative gene inside them, So maybe my destiny, so to speak, is to inspire other people and to get them to come on this journey. So I started posting everything. I thought, I kind of don't want to post my work. People are, this is not good. And I thought to myself, no, you know what? That's part of the, how should I say, as part of the whole process is getting over a fear of sharing your work. So I started an Instagram account and I started posting like every painting that I did. I mean, if they were real bad, I might not post, but I would post every day. I'd post in the group, post materials, and that would be part of the progress. And now you're pursuing, there's a fun part of sharing your work, people commenting on your work, some people really telling you they liked it and encouraging you. That's why I tell people, post your work. You'll be surprised. People will like, there's so many different tastes out there. People will come back and they'll go, wow, I really love that. And you'll be like, really? I mean, I didn't think I was that good. Or you might post something and people say, one of the things is Matthew told me early on, he said, your horizon lines are like always crooked. And I never really thought about them. Like, yeah, that's true. I'm not really going like straight across. And that was an early correction that really helped. And by the way, I've added some cad yellow to the trees, a little bit of blue. I want a little variation in those trees. And now I'm kind of dipped into the white. I really want to get some cloud formations going here. And I don't know, another thing is like lately when I do clouds, I feel like, I don't know, I'm still not happy with the randomness of the placement of the clouds and how they look. I think I've been noticing myself trying to get perfect clouds within the frame of the page. And I've been thinking, I think the cloud should probably go off screen, off page, like coming in from the side instead of trying to get like 3-4 clouds. I kind of have this sort of angel wing thing, I call it. And I'll have like 2 clouds and then that's not enough. So I'll put another one in the top middle. And so it's just something that like I've been weirdly obsessed about it, doing these clouds. So I don't know if you have that going on too. But since then, we've had a lot of new people come in. You'd be surprised at the progress that these people made in sharing their work and the members. So from that point on, I said, you know what, I'm going to go on YouTube and I'm going to start posting. We'll see how that goes. And I didn't want to go on as saying, hey, I'm teaching you how to do painting because I don't feel qualified enough. But I'm starting this journey. I'm having a good time. Join me in the journey, and together we'll learn. And you come over to our group, and we'll learn this together, and we'll all grow in this wonderful hobby, And so that's where I'm at. And after a couple of years, I won an award at a show, a cash money prize. I came in second, and I've sold about 150 paintings. I don't sell them for a lot, but the fact that people have them hanging on their wall, I've had a commission. I had someone have me do a mural. I had someone ask me to do a portrait for their nephew that was graduating. All kinds of things have come about that I never really would have expected. And now I'm almost at 7,000 subscribers, which is amazing. I thank all of you for that. I hope you're having fun joining me on the journey. And sorry if I talked your ear off. I just kind of wanted to explain that, where I'm coming from. That's why I say join me on the journey. I could be inspiring who knows what artists to come out there. But I get messages all the time. I get messages from people that say, hey, I'm 60 some years old. I'm 70 years old. Somebody sent me a message and, hey, I'm just getting started in this and your videos have really helped. And what you showed in this one video has been really helpful. And that like in reverse encourages me to say, hey, I'm helping these people, making a difference, So all of that together, it's made for really a fun, so many years. And during this whole COVID pandemic that we're in and financial things, and it's like you really need something to take your mind off of what's going on out there. Politics. I can't stand it, man. The politics and and we have rioting and lockdowns and, I want to have something of enjoyment, production, putting out something beautiful in the world, and that's the painting that you're doing. That's why I don't do paintings that like reflect any emotions except for calm, beauty, serenity. So when I paint these, what I'll do is I'll put on music that's calming, or sometimes I put on music to pump you up. It's important when you start a painting, when you sit down, I'll give you this little sort of tip. You sit down, don't say to yourself, hey, I hope this comes out good. No, you are a great artist. You're very creative. You're going to sit down, you're going to turn something out that's really going to be amazing. No matter what it is, it's art. And whatever you have to do to pump yourself up, I don't care if you have a special hat you wear, you put on an apron, you play certain music that puts you in a certain calming mood. Do all those things. Make it an event. You don't have to spend, make it, it's an hour of your day where you're going to sit down, you're going to relax, and you're going to have this enjoyment of this creativity where you're just letting it out on paper. And I'll tell you what, when you focus on doing the painting, like for me, when I'm into doing the painting, it's one of the few times where I'm not thinking about anything else. Like most of the day, I kind of have one of those minds that just goes and goes and goes. You can probably tell by the way I'm talking, but like I have 50 things on my mind at a time. And I'm thinking about what about this and tomorrow, and I got this to do and that to do. But when I do the paintings, I'm like focused. I'm not thinking about anything but turning out that painting. So for me, it's been a way to, like meditation. You've cleared your mind of the other things and you're just doing this one thing. And I've never had a hobby or an experience like that where it's really like it envelops your mind. I used to be in astronomy and some other things, and a lot of times, those are fun hobbies too, but nothing has really captured my interest like this has. Now, I will say I used to paint figures. I used to paint models back in the 90s. Different celebrity characters, like, monster characters and this and that. I used to use an airbrush and you used to have to paint the faces and do washes and make highlights and things like that. I did that for about 2-3 years and it was fun, but I kind of ran out of models and it was expensive because some of those models were like $70, $80, $90 for one, and you had to glue them together. Someday I'll put a couple. I still got a couple that are still held together all these years. So hopefully you enjoyed that little bit of a talk and getting my thoughts recorded here. I'm working on the foliage here. I'm just kind of creating some brown area here where I can do a little bit of rock scraping. I like to incorporate a little bit of rocks into the scene. I've tried to get some good colors here. You can see how those colors have played in. I've painted over them with the white, but you have the yellow underneath now. You want to get some yellow reflecting off the bottom of those clouds. You use a little yellow ochre and then you blend it in a little bit. So yeah, watching videos like mine, Stephen Cronin, Dave Usher. Dave Usher's a workhorse when it comes to, he does acrylic, he does oil, he does watercolor. He puts out videos every single day. He's an artist at heart, for years and years. Watch all of those people. Every person that you can, if you have the time, watch all of those people and try to commit as much different styles as you can to memory. Watching all of those things, reading books, joining a group like ours and sharing your work and making it an all-encompassing hobby. Make that your thing, as long as you enjoy it, obviously. I see people come and they do it for a little while and then they stop. Isn't that most common with a lot of things? By the way, I'm doing a little more cad yellow here. You can use lemon yellow. I'm going over the tops of these trees. I just want to have a little bit of light, a little bit of color bouncing off. Don't you find most people, though, when they come to doing certain things, like they do it for a while, do it for a few months, they do it for a year or whatever, and then they kind of fade off and they lose interest. And that's probably why people don't really get like to any kind of master level in certain things, because it really was just a distraction, kind of a hobby, which is fine. If you get tired of it after a while. Sometimes I think to myself, gee, how many landscapes can I paint? How many trees, and I move here, move there. So that's why I jump around and I come up with different, what can I do to really evolve in the hobby, add a little bit of acrylic here, or maybe kind of go in the mixed media realm. Let me try a little oil. Let me do a little sketching. So it kind of does break up the monotony. You do some sketching of a scene, and then you try to recreate that scene. And I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can do it out there. You can see how I've added a little yellow to the trees in the distance at the base of the mountain. And I did put a little bit of yellow on the slopes of the mountain just to catch a little bit of that light. Now the rocks, I of course did with the plastic card. And I always tell people, after you scrape them in, go back in, put some darker color, anchor them to the ground so that they look more realistic. And you can see I've left those two little bits of white over there. They almost kind of look like rocks or areas on the plain. Definitely very interesting when you leave white in there. It's an eye catcher. See now, like in that water below, I used a little Viridian and a little Cobalt. So I've been branching out a little bit in colors too. That's another way you can go. You start out with the basic 6 or 7 colors, and then you start adding a few different colors, you know, into your repertoire. Get a little fancy there, but add a couple colors. Like when I started out, it was lemon yellow, and then I went into cad yellow, and then I discovered yellow ochre, and so now I have 3 yellows on my palette, and I have like 3 or 4 blues. So I have a little bit now of each. I have 3 browns, 3 or 4 yellows, 3 or 4 blues, and then 3 or 4 reds. When you think about it, those are essentially your primary colors. And then, of course, I always keep Payne's Gray. You don't see a lot of people really using Payne's Gray, and people ask me, what is it? Well, it's basically black with blue mixed in with it. So it's not a dead black. You can make it yourself by taking black and adding blue to it, or you can buy several manufacturers make Payne's Gray. So it's a nice color to have on the palette, and it gets you to darker colors quicker. Now, one of the things I found is with white, it tends to dry back, and I've been kind of fooling around with the idea of adding a little bit of acrylic white because it's cheaper, it doesn't fade back, and it's not as transparent. Now, I don't know, is that cheating? I mean, again, we're kind of rule breakers a little bit here. If at the end you have a finished product you like, a finished painting that you like, whatever it is, you know, I don't know. I feel like it doesn't matter how you got there. I mean, if you're going to enter contests and you want to be like a master in a particular group, then maybe I guess it does. But like, you know, do you call it mixed media if you used 5%? I don't think so. 5% or 10% of your painting is something else, you know. But again, I've been buying tubes of gouache, and you know, it's like $5, $6, $7 for a tube of that. You can buy a big tube of acrylic for like $10. So for me, it just has made a little bit more sense to kind of incorporate a little bit of that. It doesn't fade back. It's still watercolor-ish because you can mix water with it, you know. Now you see I've taken a little burnt umber, Van Dyke brown, what have you. That's another brown I added to my... It's a nice dark brown. It's a nice rich dark brown. And when you add blue to it, it really helps too. So I added that for the shoreline, and now I've put a little bit of white. And this is an acrylic here, by the way. This is just your regular white gouache. I'm using that to create a straight line across, a little bit of a water line there. Bit of a water line, and then a ripple in the water. Now, if you go heavy on the white, you won't dry back really. But there's times when I do some things with white, and it's like I got to do 2-3 layers of it for it to really show up the way I want. One thing with white is I can see some people's point is some people will say like, well, it sticks out too much. when you use white. And I do see their point. It's very brilliant. But if you use it for snow or water and you use it in the right way, I think it looks okay. But I wouldn't use it for areas of light, like in the ground. I think snow, like if you're doing a winter scene. I don't know. I just really like it. And you can add water to it, and it can look a lot softer instead of being so white. Now, of course, here I go again, redabbing on these mountains. See what I mean? They look kind of redundant. It's another thing I found with the mountains. Like you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fingers, you know? It's like the mountains are giving you the middle finger or something. But it's like 5 fingers. And I'm just looking at that now and thinking, okay, so like what can I do to make it look more mountainous? A lot of times I'll refer back and I'll be like, how did Bob Ross make his mountains? Or how did Bill Alexander do that? Or how are some other people out there making their mountains? You know, and so I'll go back and you see how I've cut down. I've sloped that mountain down. See here? Look at how I did that. I took that mountain, I just brought it down, and now it looks different. So just that one little move. So this is the finished painting. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Be sure and subscribe. Give me some comments, some likes. You know, every little bit helps. And then, of course, you can go to my website, joemenza.com or joemenzaart.com. And I'm also on Patreon, and I do more detailed, you get extra videos there, more detailed beginner stuff. So I'd like to see you over there and at our Ron Ranson group. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.